Hey gang, Dr. G, Imaginarium. So you may have seen this circulating around the internet. A meme or a tweet or a post or something on the order of, boy, wouldn't it be great if we lived like our Paleolithic ancestors? Just kind of hunting and gathering and vibing, creating things, making songs, not worrying about taxes or oppressive capitalism or, nuclear war or any of this kind of sort of thing. What I've noticed is that this sort of post tends to generate a comment section. How shall I say it? Containing massive levels of stupidity. Because yet again, here we have yet another internet false dichotomy. Okay, so let me just kind of break this down here. So I think what they're getting at is that modern life here in like Western industrialized societies, it's not cracked up. Not everything gets cracked up to be. We got all these issues and problems, so forth and so on. And then inevitably people will come on and to the comment section and they'll make some kind of comment like, well, okay, but you'll die by the time you're 30, or you've got all sorts of other issues, like you don't have health care and you don't have all these problems. And what about technology? What about air conditioning? Da 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 da. Okay, so here's the deal. So the deal is, number one, we don't really know exactly what Paleolithic life is like. We can look at modern hunter-gatherers for inspiration, if you will, but those cultures are just as modern as every other culture on the planet. So it's important not to think of them as living fossils. Nevertheless, they can still teach us something about way life was during the Paleolithic time. And yeah, they did have some problems. Number one, the typical hunter-gatherer society of today, in order to make it to age 15 or so, you've got anywhere from a 80 to 50% chance to make it. They're the high mortality. It's a dangerous lifestyle. For other problems, they don't have access to modern healthcare typically. They don't have modern dental. They didn't have air conditioning. They continue to not have air conditioning frequently. I didn't have much air conditioning when I was growing up either, so there we are with that. So yeah, it's not an idyllic or perfect or noble savage kind of lifestyle. Now, what about the flip side of that? Okay, and you see some of this in the discussion too, but not as much. And that is that depression, suicide, addiction, anxiety disorders are all much higher than they were merely 100 years ago. And if you compare cross-culturally, now, as a side, it is difficult to compare cultures like this in terms of depression, anxiety rates, and that sort of thing, because you have language barriers and you have different cultural definitions of these sorts of things. Nevertheless, the best available data that we have on this from anthropologists and from psychologists studying cross-cultural trends is that depression is relatively unknown in hunter-gatherer societies. Not to say that people don't have sadness and that sort of thing, but not the depression that we typically talk about. Suicide does exist, but not to the degree that it does in our culture. Drug addictions, obviously, they're not going to have a whole lot of drug addictions if they don't have access to the drugs that we do, which technology in all of its glorious wonderfulness has provided for us. So there's a lot of different variables that we're getting at here. So in a way, it's not really mutually exclusive. It's a false dichotomy. It's not one culture or way of life is necessarily better than the other. It's a trade-off. And I think that the best way to look at this is to ask ourselves, in the face of things like, yes, we have better healthcare and dental care, and we have access to more stuff, and we have technology and all these, do these things actually make us happier? The answer to the question is, actually, it doesn't seem like it does. And in fact, many of the things that we need to make us happy, we have less of in modern societies. And a big part of that is due to the loneliness problem. The loneliness has gotten to the point where it's been labeled as an epidemic in many different academic circles. Well, obviously you don't have loneliness problem if you live in a tribe of 100 people that you're, encountering pretty much every day. And that's how our Paleolithic ancestors lived. So, you know, there are definite trade-offs. Is So what's the answer to this? And I think the answer is to try to learn from these societies, try to maintain the things that we have, that modern technology and advancements and so forth have been able to provide for us. But also take a look at those other cultures and other ways of life, both past and present, and ask ourselves, what can we really learn from these people? If we uh, take a little dose of humility and take a look at them and not treat them, with such condescension as has been done in the past, they may be able to teach us quite a bit about human nature and about happiness and about what we really need to be happy and all that sort of thing. Oh, and one more thing. Enough with the you're going to die by the age of 30. It's just a statistical anomaly. Remember that high mortality rate I was talking about? Yeah, it skews the average lower. The average maximum lifespan hasn't really changed that much since our Paleolithic ancestors roamed the earth. It's still about what it was then. It's just that um, a whole lot more stuff will kill you at a young age in that more so-called primitive environment than you will get in a modern industrialized society typically. Um, what you don't want to do is take that number, say an average of 30, 35 or something like that, and assume that somebody who's 35 is old and decrepit. No, that's not how it works. So that's what I got for you today.